I get joy when I think about what he's done for me. I get joy when I think about what he's done for me. That's what he's done. That's what he's done. That's what he's done. That's what he's done. I get joy when I think about what he's done for me. Amen. Praise the Lord, everybody. We give honor to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Thank God for his goodness. That song dropped in my spirit when I walked in the building. And I was singing in the back. I'm like, I'm singing this song, so I figured I'd sing it and share with y'all. Thank God for what he is. Praise the Lord for his help and his strength and how he is making provisions for us. And in spite of us, he's still God. And praise the Lord that he has brought us to another Bible study tonight to share and study God's Word. And that's what we want to do tonight. Yeah. Now I want to start a hard question. And I want y'all to know when I ask you a hard question, it's not to confuse you or not to make you think that you're not as smart as somebody else. My hard question is to get you started thinking in the right direction. Okay? So, my question, as I'm getting shifting gears again, so my question is for everybody, as you pay attention to my question, it's going to be quite hard question, but simple. Got people responding to the live stream that went out and it's back on now. It's good. So I'm not ignoring y'all. I'm not trying to be carnal while I'm doing the Bible study. I'm checking. I'm monitoring the live stream and the conference call. I have people texting me they can't hear or something, so that's what multitasking, right? Thank God he gives us differently, right? My question is, if the gospel was being preached the exact same way that it was being preached 20 years ago, if the church's standards were the same today as they were 20 years ago, would the saints be the same today? Think about the question. If the word is still the same, preached the same way, the standards are still the same standards, would the saints be the same kinds of saints today as they were 20 years ago? And before you answer that, I want you to stop for a second, take a deep breath, think about the question. Okay? Because you're only going to think about, I gave you two factors. But you have to think about, are there other factors that alters or influences the life of a believer? Okay? Now, when you think you're ready to answer the question, raise your hand and please talk to the mic. If the word was presented and preached the same today as it was 20 years ago, and the standards were the same as they were 20 years ago, would saints be the same types, same kinds of saints? Would the results be the same for all or most of the saints? Is the question. I asked the same question and added some more words to it just so you can go further in your thought. Would anybody like to take a shot at answering that question for you? Yes, ma'am. Mother Robbins, Mother R.
I would think that you would be the same because the word of God is not going to change. Even though this is a growing way, we still have to grow. And I think from the preaching And the teaching that we receive is not going to change, shouldn't change God's word.
Okay.
So I would say yes, if we would still be where we are now.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm on that too. I say that you could 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was me, I'd go a little farther back.
Well, I want to go 20. We don't have to, we don't want to go that deep until far. Let's just deal with 20. Because I don't want you to get stuck in the time period or too many details. I just want you to think about the question. And then what I want you to do is I want you to be present with yourself and ask yourself, what factors affects my life besides the word and the church setting? Because you don't just live in the congregation that you fellowship with, and you don't just always hear and you're not always around the word of God. There are other things that influences us every day, all day. And that's why I went 20 years back. So after saying that, what's important?
Let's see. Why would you say, you say 20 years? I got my life in 20 years. If I know in 20 years, I think I could have been a better person in my life. In my life,
Okay.
I look at my brother Carl when he went into church. And I look at him and I started studying him. There's something about Carl different, about me. When I started looking how Paul be on the doctor, you been around him. When people come with that crazy talk, you don't argue with them. You just nicely move yourself with me.
Okay.
From there.
Okay.
But I could understand it because I was not in a place that he was in.
Okay.
So I can say, just like you said, yeah,
Okay.
if I could, the life would change. If I believe in God, I had the spirit of God,
Okay.
things would have been different.
Okay. All right, there's no wrong or right answer. I'm going to bring out another point on you. Yes, ma'am.
20 years ago, I think between that and now, it is different.
Okay. What's different?
20 years ago, they didn't have gospel rap and praise dancing and all that type of thing.
It was very young.
It wasn't as popular as today. And influences today, like I can use me for example, where I came from. I was always used to the contemporary gospel praise dance and all that. So when I moved to Charleston, I'm more into now the say like the traditional that I wasn't used to. And I kind of feel my faith growing stronger than it was when I was with the contemporary and the things of today's time.
Okay. Anybody else? Y'all, the mic open? Anybody else? All right, let me give y'all the factors that you consider but didn't really think about. 20 years ago, we had the internet, but it wasn't as popular as it is today. Everybody didn't have internet access in their home 20 years ago. Everybody didn't have social media 20 years ago. So for the saint who may hear the same word and have the same traditions and standards, he's influenced by social media. He's influenced by cable TV. Now, I'm going to a point where I want y'all to understand. 20 years ago, when you went home at 12, at the latest 1 o'clock, what happened to the TV? Did you hear that?
It go off.
All the channels do what? Go off. Because they weren't broadcasting 24/7. Cable was, everybody didn't have cable. So, for the saint, you were exposed to less things Nowadays, as a believer, you have 24/7 of being bombarded with information, crises, ills, pain, suffering that you have at your exposure. Now, some people, maybe not most of you, their cell phones or their digital devices are on all the time, and they get notifications that something else has been uploaded. An email, a new Facebook post has been given, whatever, a new news post. So if something's happening in war, clear across the world, you know about it immediately. And as a believer, does that affect us? That you hear 20 people have just been killed in a bomb? 100 people just drowned in a tsunami? I mean, can you just hear that and you go, oh, it didn't happen over here, so we're okay? Doesn't it? Pretty hard. So it affects you. Yeah. So what I'm telling you is, though you may live the same standard of holiness and sanctification, you may still trust and hold on to the word as you did. Those may be true factors, but the environment affects you differently. Because you're constantly being bombarded with things. Does that make sense? And you can't hear about trouble and all the kinds of things happening, and it does not affect you. It doesn't alter your emotions and how you feel and bring questionable things to your mind. And that's what I want us to understand. Though our desires and our hopes and our standards and our walk with God is the same, we have more challenges because now we have to be more disciplined than ever before. Now, when I say discipline, I don't mean not go places, not say certain things. Those things are pretty much the same. But what I'm telling you, you have to be careful what you're exposed to, what you hear, what you see, right? Because what are the two factors that are gateway to your souls? What are two main factors that gateway to your soul? What you see, what you hear, right? How was Eve overtaken in the garden? What factors overtook her? By seeing and hearing, right? One of the two main factors that we all wrestle with, that are the three principles of sin, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. And whenever you're being exposed by all this stuff 24/7, it's feeding those parts of you that you need to keep under your members, or you need to die. You need those parts of you to die. But it's constantly being fed. It's constantly being enticed. It's constantly being, teased a little. And even when you go to pray, those things are ruminating, floating around in your mind. And I want us as believers to deal with these things from a realistic standpoint. Whether you have social media or not, it's not the only reason why you have issues, you struggle with it. Because you have news. We just had 2, 4, 5, and some 7, and then later 24. But now you got news coming from everywhere. And these things are not good in the sense that as believers, we allow ourselves to be shaken by the information that we hear, by the images that we see. Amen? It affects us. And if we're not careful, it causes us to lose that sound mind that we need. Amen? Mm-hmm. The word came to Jesus. He whom thou lovest is now dead, referring to Lazarus. Jesus showed us an example. He says, let us go. Then he says to the disciples, it's good for y'all that y'all are here with me, and y'all were with me when you got the word that Lazarus was dead. Let us go. Let us go do what? Let us go now so that you can see the power of God. The Bible doesn't say those exact words, but in the sense that it was so that you might know who God is. Now, Mary and Martha were visited by what would be considered professional mourners of that day. somebody died, they would just come and fill your house, and they would just be crying and just keeping you in a state of mourning and weeping. And so when they heard that Jesus was coming into the city, the one sister got up and came to Jesus. And the mourners felt that she was grieving so deeply that she was going to the grave, but she was going to talk to Jesus. And she said, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. So grief and things that we're expecting God to do for us affects us deeply. Amen? I want us to deal with it. I mean, we can have the love of God, we can have the Holy Ghost, but we have to understand that there's a part of us that is still connected to this world, carnal state. And that is why we have to know our relationship with the Lord. Because Jesus loved Mary and Martha and their brother Lazarus. And she says, you know, if you've been here, our brother would not have died. You got to hear that. And she said, yeah. Your brother said, rise again. She said, yeah, I believe in the resurrection. I know. He said, well, rise again. He said, look, I am the resurrection. And like, though he be dead, yet shall he live again. That's what you got to understand. Jesus was comforting not her psychological self, but he was comforting her soul, her spirit. Because he needed her to do what? Have faith. Does that make sense? Yeah. And what you have to do as a believer is you can't be charged by all the things you hear and see, because it saps you of your faith. That makes sense? So what is one of the things different today than 20 years ago? People's faith is different. They hear the same word, and they still around the same standard, but there's so many things challenging your faith. If you're not replenishing your faith daily, you waver or you failing. The Bible says if you faint in adversity, your faith is what? Is weak. So we fainting in adversities. And we have to ask ourselves why. And people immediately say, because we're not holding to the word. We're not walking the standards that we did. And I disagree with that. I just believe that we have more things that we're confronted with more often than we once did. An example of that, here Jesus is baptized of John. The Bible says he led of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And after he fasted 40 days, the Bible says, and when he had hungered, then cometh the devil to tempt him. After Jesus was tempted 3 times, the Bible says he went apart. Then he was ministered to by the angel. You've got to replenish your spirit. And if you don't take the time to replenish your spirit, you're not going to have a sound mind, and you're going to lose your faith. I didn't say you're going to lose your salvation now. You can have the Holy Ghost and not walk in faith. But you have to replenish your spirit. Amen? If I understand why I'm asking you the question the way that I am? Because as we approach the last day, what does the Bible say? I feel good tonight, by the way, though. What does the Bible teach us about last day occurrence? One main thing that believers we have to know. What kind of times are there going to be? Bible says there shall be times of trouble, trials. In the last day there shall be perilous times. So if I'm going to be troubled or bombarded or charged by so many things, then that means I have to work that much harder to keep my faith strong and replenished. Right? How many of you remember maybe 20 years ago? Oh, not almost. I know 20 years ago. How many of you had a cell phone 20 years ago? Cell phone, cellular phone. You didn't have a cellular phone 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
How many of you had a cellular phone 20 years ago? Maybe 2 of us.
I had a bag phone.
It's cellular phone. See, very few people had cellular phones. Now, if I ask how many of us have a cellular phone today, everybody raise their hand. And then most people didn't have landlines either. So you didn't get phone calls throughout the night, all the time. When you left home, people couldn't reach you. Right? Y'all know what I'm trying to say. But no matter where you are, somebody calling you, giving you news and telling you. So you're never away from information. You always, and we think that having information is a great thing, and it could be, but it's not good if you're constantly bombarded by information that does not feed or edify the soul. That makes sense?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
When you took during the tribulation period, I thought that during the tribulation period, the same thing is supposed to be.
No. So we're not in the tribulation.
Oh, okay.
We're in the time where the Bible says in the last days there shall be perilous times of trouble. All right? Tribulation, and the best way to understand that, thank you for your question, is also known as Jacob's trouble. The tribulation is the time when God takes a church and pulls her into the marriage feast. And then he now goes back to trying to redeem Israel, parts of Israel. Okay, that's why it's called Jacob's trouble, which Jacob's name is also Israel. He's now giving Israel that one last opportunity to be converted. Okay? So the saints are going through the tribulation period on the earth. But we're in our tribulation now. Does that make sense? When I say tribulation now, we're in the time of testing and trial. All right? The Bible doesn't call it time of tribulation, but I'm saying we're in the time of testing and trial all the time. Okay? But that period, which is called the Great Tribulation, or Jacob's trouble, it's for Israel and the world. Okay? That makes sense? I want to make sure we're not confused. Everybody clear? Okay. So let's look at the handout. Because we talked about 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 3 through 5 last week. And we said, the last thing we said is casting down imagination. That's why I'm saying to you, on the second page of that sheet. Do you have a copy of those, Art? Okay. The second, on the second page at the top. Second page on top. Take the first page, fold it over. And then look at the top. Take the first page, fold it over. And then look at there it says 2 COR, 2 Corinthians chapter 10. All right, look at verse 5. It says, casting down what? Now, if you have to cast down imagination, things that you imagine, the things that you envision, things that you perceive. Imagine, as I use the word, that is the definition of what I'm trying to say. Imagine the things that you have to cast down that you actually see and hear. Because the weapons of our warfare are not common. What that mighty? We got to what? The pulling down of what? Stronghold. So if the Bible says cast down all the casting down imagination, think about how much more we have to pull down. That word casting down is the same as word pulling down. Pull down. We have to think about how much more stuff we have to pull down. It's constant. Constant. Casting down imagination do what? And everything that does what? Exalts itself against the knowledge of God. All that information we're getting, it'll have you thinking that the world is, things are more powerful than God. And you got to remind, I don't care what I hear, what I see, God is still in control. Amen. But you get confused sometimes. Because you're like, if God really loved his people, you believe that this is happening? How many times y'all heard people say, family gets tragic news that someone's died in a tragic accident or
That's like Mary Rose to say, Mom, this son be killed Saturday night. And Sharon and my wife put it together. And Sharon's daughter. She said, me, my wife didn't come home. She said, I'm glad actually going with Sharon because the young man in his church died. And she was upset. And I said, well, she was by herself and she upset. How could she drive home? Because if she got her mind on the young man to kill, I do understand that she's sorry with the young man. But she got to have a clear mind to drive home. Because if you don't have a clear mind, you ain't thinking right, and think the light green and run through the red light, right, and cause another accident.
Well, not only that, now you relate that to somebody who is in mourning, who's in sorrow. But that point again, you make a great Great point, thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. But think about the saints who are drunken or overwhelmed by things that they don't understand or they want changed. No. That's practical and that's to the point. But when you look at the evidence of where believers are today, does it seem like we are able to be sober, to wait on God? And the answer would have to be, for the most part, Pastor, most people are not sober-minded enough to let God take them to the bus. Because we want it what? Immediately. We want to pray, we want to fast, we want to spin around 3 times, we touch our nose, and we want to what? Change. And if it doesn't change, what happens?
You get upset,
Or,
get angry,
or,
and question God.
or,
We try to fix it ourselves.
say that again, Mama.
We try to fix it ourselves.
Or we try to do what?
We try to fix it ourselves instead of waiting on God.
Or, what's the other thing we do? Big comment one, I'm hoping somebody says. What's the other thing we do?
You want God to move quick.
We look to the preacher. We think maybe the preacher has an answer or a fix.
Why you want to do things? And God is from God.
When we deal with humans, we want things that are tangible.
Yeah,
God brought Israel out of Egypt. He brought them through the Red Sea. They kept coming to Moses.
that's why I was saying that the Lord, you get to pray with God. Even though
I've been praying. I've been trusting God. I've been fasting. And nothing's happening.
you still got to wait.
And Pastor, now I'm getting weary and I feel like I'm not going to make it. I know you can get a breakthrough. I know if you pray, the Lord will move.
Still got to wait.
Come on now.
God can move on time. God moves on time.
Am I talking right? And this is the problem we have, because we look at entities more than we look at God. And if Psalm 9 says to me, if I'm in this thing right now, where is God? Where is God when I'm in the crisis?
God right there.
He's in the crisis with me. Right? Mm-hmm. If I have a problem, who's bigger than the problem?
God.
See, that is the present state of mind that you have to be in as a believer. But we're not usually there. That is what I'm trying to help us understand as believers. The power of a sound mind. You don't build a sound mind after you fall into pieces. You have to live in a sound mind. You have to dwell in a sound mind. You have to practice a sound mind. You have to create and exist in a sound mind. Because if you don't, your life will be doing this. In and out. In and out. When you being moved by every wind of every doctrine. The slight of any cunning thing moves you, and you get troubled by anything. And we can't be that way as believers. We must remain steadfast, unmovable, always abounding. Where? In the works of God. Have to. Why? Because if you don't, you're not gonna have a sound mind. And then you can't receive anything from God. Because if you don't mind, or if you're wavering, you can't please God. You see how that works? All right, let's keep going. All right, so casting down imagination, and then says everything that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of what? Christ. Now there's two folds of the obedience of Christ. Thoughts have to be brought to. Okay? What is your first approach to every thought to the obedience of Christ? What do you think that means?
Not the will of God.
Okay, the will of God.
If this is the will of God, be this thing that's coming in your mind.
Okay, yes, ma'am. And what's the other angle? What's the other perspective? What's the other perspective? What's the other perspective? Come on, saints.
We got to be humble on this.
Yeah, but no. Who was Jesus Christ. But who else was he? Who else was he? He was our perfect example. He came to show us how to live. He came to show us how to be. And the Bible said he was all points tempted when he met none with sin. So when I come to the understanding of or a thought of something, I also have to remind that thing that Jesus has already conquered it, even in life and living. Not only in death, but he defeated it in life and living. When somebody says, oh, ain't nobody can live without sin, Jesus did it.
Amen, somebody.
Amen.
Why? Because he came to show us that God was in Christ reconciling the world to himself. And if God raised up Christ from the spirit that dwelleth in him, and that same spirit dwells in us, he shall also quicken our mortal bodies, not only for the rapture, but even now he empowers us to do what? Overcome sin. So when you got things coming in your mind, you got to remind yourself, nope, I got the power over this evil. Does that make sense? You have to remind yourself. Because somebody said, well, Jesus did. He said, well, Jesus was God. No, he was also man. To show you what you can do when you live in God, when you walk in God. Does that make sense? That's what I'm trying to get the church to understand. Jesus wasn't a part of an organization. He wasn't a part of a group. He was in God. And as long as he was in God, he was victorious and successful. Right? We sing a song. In God, there is no failure. He will do whatever you ask him to. You gotta know it. But it has to be according to his will. Amen? But you gotta trust that there's no failure in him. What do I do with the things that hasn't happened that I asked God for? What do I do about or with the things that I prayed and asked God for that has not happened yet?
I think that's what we have to have patience. And even though we have patience, sometimes it's going to take too long for God to do. We try to handle it ourselves.
Okay.
The lesson we mess things up.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a great, you depend on God's word. Told you to give what we stand in need of.
Amen.
You know we're going to get it.
Okay, and there's another perspective that I want us to visit. What is it? What is the second perspective? She said patience to wait. And then she went into it just briefly about the word. What is the second perspective?
Faith.
What else?
Believe.
What else? We have to know God's will for our lives. Because what if the thing we're asking for isn't God's will for us? Then we have to know how to what? Separate from it, let it go. Doesn't matter what our desires are, I have to submit to his will. That's a hard part for believers. I try to teach people that. It's like you're asking God for something that he won't do for you. But that's not his will for you. And they look at me like, what do you mean? The Bible said, whatever I ask, he will do it. I said, no, that's not what the scripture teaches us. The scripture says he will do according to his will. His will. Not just going to have a desire, but because it brings glory to him or it is his will for my life. Some things I'm praying for. God didn't manifest. And I've had to learn to rejoice and glorify God. Because I've learned to, as the Bible says, learn to be there with content. Godliness with contentment is great gain. The believer has to learn to be content. In other words, I have to know what God's will is. And when my desire does not line up with God's will, I have to bring my desire into the will of God. Ooh, that was good. Because God is not going to let me be like a spoiled child, crying and screaming and upset because I didn't get what I wanted. Does that make sense?
Amen.
I'm going to say something hard, and God, Please help me make certain I say this correctly. That someone's heart may be comforted and their spirit may be lifted. A few years ago, the statistics said there were 20 women to every one man. I think now there's probably 40 women to every one man. Okay? If there are 40 women to every one man, how many women would probably not have husbands? 39. Right? But we teach young women that God will give you the desires of your heart. But if we believe the Bible the way that it is written, a woman can't have another woman's husband and be in the will of God, right? Therefore, I have to ask myself, what do I do? And how do I teach young women to submit to the will of God? That's a hard thing. Because you, a mother trying to teach a young woman, your baby, I know you want to be married, but not every woman is going to be married. She said, well, that's easy for you to say you had a husband. Then you have to ask her, okay, according to the word, what do you do until a man finds you? Right? These are hard things. Because as we get closer to the rapture, it's harder and harder for women to find husbands, or husbands to find men. Why? Because more and more men are either dying, or in prison, or just don't desire women at all. So where are all these women going to find husbands? We say we're going to pray and the Lord will bring them in. We've been praying for a long time, and I don't see it happening. And I think we have to start dealing with some real issues. Amen? So how do I learn to develop a sound mind? Does it make me less than a woman if I never marry? Does it make me less than a woman if I never give birth to a child? But our society and our culture tells you that if you don't have a husband, you don't have somebody you sleep by every night, you don't have a child, you ain't whole.
The scripture that says that the virgin can serve God better.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have to worry about
Yes, ma'am. That's those are the kind of things we don't teach. That you're in a better position to serve God because you don't have the bondage and the struggles of finding the things of the world to please your husband. We keep telling them, baby, God will give you the desires of your heart. It's stressful. And those are not good things, healthy things to tell them. Because we have to simply say you need to seek the will of God to make certain that it is God's will for you to have a husband. Amen? That makes sense? I tell you that because privately, after my wife and I suffered our last miscarriage, somebody told us, oh, don't worry, the Lord will give you all the baby. And I sat and I looked, listened to them. I said, you don't even know the voice of God. Because I know what God told us. I know what He said. And then after we adopted our son, I had the same person come in and say, now you watch. Because now that y'all got a son, your wife will get pregnant. I said, really? Is that what God said? See, you have to have a sound mind. Because the reality was the emotional weight that came with every miscarriage was more than my wife was able to bear. And it was even affecting me. And for somebody to give false hope or false information could have messed the both of us up. Does that make sense? That's why you have to know what God says in his word. And you have to know God's will for your life. You have to have sound mind. Because that stuff will start haunting you. But Sister so-and-so says, Lord, bless us with a child. But is that what God told you? God don't tell anybody anything concerning your life that he doesn't tell you first. If they tell you, they're going to confirm it or reaffirm it. If they just come out of the blue with it, check the scriptures according to your life. Make certain as your will, God's will for your life. Amen? Why? Because you want to make certain that you believe everything that comes out of people's mouths, even though they sound spiritual. You got to cast down imagination, bring every thought to the obedience. And some thoughts that feel right is not the will of God. Does that make sense? Do you hear what I'm telling you? It's hard because my human will desires things, but God's divine will is greater than my natural desire. And somebody said, well, hey, God don't want you to live without pleasure. And I said, what Bible are you reading? He showed us even in his own example when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane and when he was healing the sins and the burdens of the world. He even cried out. He said, is there not another way? Because he was on the cross. He felt the separation. The flesh was remaining on the cross. He said, Lama Sabachthani, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why have you separated yourself from me? He gave us the example of the emptiness. But then he could say, nevertheless, not my will, but thy will. Or he could say, it is finished. Why? Because I understand that this has to be this way. Sound mind. You don't fight it. You let the manifestation of the glory of God come to pass. That makes sense, everybody? That makes sense, everybody? You got to understand that. And that's why I was saying last week, as it relates to mourning and other things in the process of people go through, we have to be careful how we try to control what people do and how they do it. We want to remind them of what the word, but we want to give people a space to let the healing process begin for them. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, I'm going to get off that soapbox and try to get back to this handout. Because we have about 11 minutes. The implication here is that the Christian warfare is in the mind. As I said to you yesterday, the devil's not standing at your front door, even if it's your spouse don't want you to leave, trying to stop you from going to church and doing other things. He's battling you in your mind. And let me be careful in how I say that. Because the devil can only be one place at a time. He has imps and demons all over the world. So it's not necessarily the devil. I call it the principles of darkness or the powers of darkness. It's what you battle. Amen? The devil's not omnipresent. You can't be everywhere at once. You can only be one place at a time. Understand that. So the forces that we're coming up against is battling your mind. Right? The most significant battleground this world has ever known is in your mind. You have to understand it. Our day-to-day victory is in this battle, for the mind determines our peace and happiness as Christians. And the effectiveness of our Christian testimony in the what? In this world. And Revelation says, these are they who overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. You got to know where Jesus is in your life. You have to know what he's done for you. You have to have a testimony. Let's hold on to something. Amen? It is therefore imperative that we, as God's people, strive for victory over the powers that war against our what? Our minds. Stop entertaining them. You wake up in the morning, stop thinking about all the negative things. Stop thinking about all the bad stuff. Stop hearing that stuff and repeating it in your thinking. Start giving yourself affirmation of what the word says. You gotta do that. When I have things I don't understand, I say, eyes have not seen, neither have ears heard, neither has it entered into the hearts of men. God has revealed them to us by his Spirit. That's what I say to myself. I said, just trust what the Spirit is leading you to. I don't understand it. I don't see it. I don't have any connection to it. But I know that the Spirit is leading me. I can remind myself of it. Because if I don't, I may get discouraged. I may question God. Even when I don't understand that God has a way, plans for me. How many of y'all believe that? How many of y'all believe that?
Amen.
The purpose of this message is to help us as God's people to win the victory in the battles that we fight in our minds every day. The enemies of our minds, depression. Anybody know what depression is? Now, I need to tell y'all something so that I can make certain you won't get in trouble with this. What is depression?
Especially when you're going through something, and you're trying to battle with something.
It could be.
When you're feeling down and feeling real low.
Okay. All right. That is a natural depression. That is a depression when you feel kind of hopeless. But there is such a thing as a clinical depression. And the saints, you have to be careful when you give directions to people who are clinically depressed. Clinical depression is not the same as somebody feeling blue. A person feeling blue, they go shopping, they can go get their hair done, they go for a walk and they feel good. But a person who's clinically depressed, they literally have the life feeling like it's sucked out of them because our chemicals are off. Okay? There's a difference in that. Please understand that. And any women in here, you may be able to testify to this. After having your children or going through pregnancy, you may have experienced postpartum syndrome. Maybe they didn't know what it is, but you just didn't feel like you wanted to care for the baby. You didn't feel like the life had worth and all this other stuff because your chemicals were all off. Okay? So when people go through clinical or chemical depression, is how I'm calling it, we don't advise them the same way we do when somebody just feels hopeless. Okay? Mm-hmm. Please understand that. If you're talking to somebody and they say, well, I have a diagnosis of such and so, don't say, you just need to trust the Lord. First thing you need to say, you need to go see your doctor. Or you need to talk to your counselor. If that's what they're having, or you need to ask them, are you taking the medicine? Why? Because their chemicals is what keeps them leveled out. Now you say, oh, Pastor, I don't agree with all that. Anybody here take medicine for high blood pressure? What happens if you don't take your medicine for high blood pressure? And your blood pressure get a little elevated? You get a little dizzy, right? You get a little loopy?
Yeah.
And I can just say, brother, trust the word, read the word. Lay that word on yourself. Let that word bring your blood pressure down. That doesn't work, does it? You have to take that medicine to keep your blood pressure down. Somebody has diabetes, we don't tell them, oh, let's pray and the Lord will bring your sugar down. You say, make sure you check your blood sugar. And if it's elevated, make sure you eat like you're supposed to. And take your insulin or your pills. Right? Because it is a chemical thing. Which you don't treat it like a natural thing. Y'all understand that? Yeah. Now, Jesus is the answer and the healing for it all. But we have to understand that there's a difference in the approach and the treatment to it. Y'all understand that? Mm-hmm. So we have to be careful. And I'm trying to educate you on how you advise people. You don't counsel nobody. Because it's illegal for you to counsel people without a license. Amen? Please understand that. Somebody come to you, don't sit there and you acting like you're a counselor. Because if something they take your advice and they do the wrong thing, you can be sued or even go to jail. Okay? That's why you advise people, or as we call it in the church, you mentor or discipleship them. But you don't go outside of your scope of understanding. Okay? So I want you to understand that depression is real. But some people are not depressed because they've sinned or they're in sin. Some people are just depressed because it's hereditary. Some people are depressed because of, and like I said, pregnancy and other things. But you got to know the dynamic. So when you're out of your scope, direct them to the place where they can get help. Amen? I don't want us to be the kind of church that we just say things to people and don't think about the consequences. Amen? All right? So the wars of the mind are depression, discouragement. What is discouragement? Discouragement is stuff we face all the time. And as a people who are people of color, we have heard discouragement all the days of our life since we came over here on the streets. Because we were not human beings, we were 3/4 of a human. We didn't have souls. We're ignorant, we're dumb, we're dirty. All the things that people still think about us. And then we get told by loved ones and family members, you'll never be anything, good, you ugly, you this and you that. This is discouragement. Defeated attitude. Right? And the Bible gives us the exact opposite. The Bible says to think on these things, that which is good, that which is pleasant, that which edifies. Contentment. What is discontentment? Not happy, not satisfied with nothing. Nothing makes you happy. How does that make God feel? God's not happy with discontented people. Because he did all that stuff for Israel, and they complained and murmured and complained. God brought them through the Red Sea, he fed them, he gave them water, he kept the snakes from killing them, he didn't let their clothes wear out, and all they did is wow. God can't stand discontentment. And that's why I tell you as a church, let's give glory and honor to God. Let's be gratified. Let's have gratification. Why? Because when we think about what God has done for us, not just salvation, but the fact that the stuff that all of us have gone through didn't kill us or cause us to lose our mind, we ought to praise him. Does that make sense? Lustful. What is lustful? What is lustful?
Every bed.
Mother,
I want and you just stay. I think. Sorry. If you see a young lady, if you look, if you see him walking, you like eye, you can see.
no, we have a problem with looking.
Let me finish.
I'm gonna let you finish after I tell you this.
Oh, okay, great.
The problem with looking is that you open your eye gate to it. It's best for you not to look. Because I think it was the psalmist that later says, no unclean thing will I put before my eyes. Because when you look, you're being drawn in by your own face. So there's something the matter with looking. You understand what I'm saying? I don't want you to put that in your sight. You say, I can look as long as I don't touch. Don't look.
I ain't saying look like that.
No, don't look.
We spiritual and we flesh, all right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you telling me, Sister Cherry walking on King Street, and I come and he come and walk there, come and walk here. So I can see. So I see some Cherry, the good looking lady.
Okay.
That get my that get my attention.
Okay.
But now if I look at her and I dwell on her, oh Lord.
Let me tell you what the Bible says. Let me tell you what the Bible says.
All right.
Old Testament scriptures, they would put the blinders on the mule so that the mule could only focus in on the plowing that it would plow. We have to put the blinders on. That's the problem with the church. We give tolerance to stuff that draws us out slowly. I don't look at women and things because I know what it does to my spirit. I know what it does to my soul. You can say, brother, you can look and you can handle it. When do I know I can handle it? What happens the time I thought I could and I don't have it? You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's best just to don't even look. What did Joseph do? When Potiphar's wife says, hey, Potiphar's house, want to make you comfortable. He realized, here I am, this 17-year-old young man. Things are happening that shouldn't be happening. How can I do this against my God? He didn't stay there and see how long he can go with it. He ran, left his coat. And what I'm telling us as believers is when I understand that I'm a man and I am made to desire women, I look at the wall first. Why? Because I don't want to be tested in my flesh. That makes sense? Not just women. Mother said anything that you dwell it on and you desire. It could be the fact that you see somebody's diamond ring. You're like, Lord, that's pretty big. Ooh, I wonder if I can get me one of those. And you may not desire to steal theirs, but you start doing things to get your own. That's lustful. Because you don't understand that's not something you need to satisfy or fulfill the things that you are. You have to learn to be content. You go to somebody's house, ooh, this is a pretty house. This is a nice house. Then you start desiring to have a house like this. Lustful. Lustful. Ooh, that's a nice car. I'm going to get me a car like that. Lustful. See, we dwell so much in the church, lustful being men looking at women, women desiring men. Sometimes even bigger than that. You can lust after somebody's anointed and gifted. We don't talk about those things. We can lust after people's powers and influence. Amen. I tell people all the time, if you desire the office that I dwell in, you don't have to lust after it long. Let me talk to somebody. I will go to the bishop and we will get you official. Because the glory you think you see, go away in the first hour when you understand the responsibility. Does that make sense? And that is what I want us to understand. I think if we go back to understanding it, and I think one of the greatest influence of my life is the Apostle Paul. Paul was dealing with all kinds of people. And as I told you all a few Sundays ago when Paul wrote that letter addressing the church, could he not lead a wife and all those other things? He said he had the power to do all those things. But he says, I desire to do the will of God. So I keep my members under me. I keep my members under me, is what Paul was saying. Paul said, the things that I have to do so that I can stay focused on the work of God is what I have to do. And you can imagine he wasn't just doing it sometimes, he had to do them all the time. Because he had women even working with him. They were assisting him. They were bringing food. They were praying. They were doing things. So he was around not only men, but he was also around women. He was establishing churches. When he went to Galatia, the church of Galatia, there were women who were at one point prostitutes that he had to minister to. You can imagine when they were prostitutes coming out of sin, they didn't look churchy. So he had to do some serious things to constrain himself. That's what I'm telling us believers. You have to do whatever is necessary to stay. Don't let yourself think that you're stronger than you are. God made us natural. He gave us eyes, but he also tells us of what things to be careful of. I don't even trust common sense, though. Because sometimes I think I can handle more than I can. And all of y'all know you would bit on more than you can chew at some point. I just trust the leading of the Holy Spirit. If something comes upon me and I get convicted, if I'm talking to somebody on a social level, I'm talking to a male or female or anything, and I start getting a little uneasy feeling, I get away quickly. I don't justify, I don't try to investigate it, I leave it alone. Because I know that that's the woo, something wrong. Yes, ma'am. And you don't play with it. You don't play with it. Does that make sense? Because when you think, oh, you know, I'm strong enough. I don't know what kind of things I'm contaminated with that just waiting to pop off.
That's why a lot of people don't drugs. They think their mind is stronger than the other people. And then when they started, they get hooked on it too.
Amen. And I tell people all the time, people say, what you thinking? I was like, don't take a trip in my mind. Because there's some things in my head you don't want to know about. I try to keep them under submission to the Holy Ghost. So be careful when you ask people questions, get answers that you can't handle. Amen? So I'm telling us, power of the sound mind, things you don't understand, things that you can't control, be willing and knowing how to bring them under subjection. Bring them to the knowledge and obedience of Christ. We don't have to be superheroes. We just need to walk in righteousness and truth. Amen? Now, some brothers may be able to look and keep moving. But the rest of us, I keep thinking once I walk back, once the image is gone. So for me, it's just easier just to not see it, not have to deal with it. Amen? Amen. Any questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
If you see a woman, I mean, you gotta see her right in front of your face. I'm just saying that you gotta see. You can't.
Okay, let me explain.
If you turn this way, there might be a woman over there. If you turn that way, it might be a woman. As long as you don't sit there and dwell on it. And think evil thoughts in your mind.
But let me explain what I mean by that. When I'm talking to a female, I look at her from the chin up. The chin up. When I'm walking down the street, and the way that people dress now, and the yoga pants and everything else, I look at her from the chin up. Okay? If I see her from behind, I'm looking at her from the shoulder up. And I'm training my eyes to do that. You say, why, Pastor? Because when I let my eyes take a trip, it starts taking me into places that I don't need to go. Just like things on the internet and social media. You have to put restraints with yourself. Because if you don't, you start out simply investigating. Next thing you know, you've been trapped. And you're like, oh my God, how long have I been doing this? Because you got to be careful what you open your spirit to. Does that make sense? And I don't want to be, there are people who are uncomfortable with men and pastors. Because pastors make them feel uncomfortable when they look at them. I don't want to be that kind of guy. When I look at a sister, whether she's 10 or she's 100, I want them to feel that as a man, I respect them. Does that make sense? And I live that way consciously. I make a deliberate attempt to be that way. Does that make sense? I don't want somebody to go on, no, just understand. When I'm looking at you in your face. From the chin up. I have to. Because if I don't, then my mind starts wandering. And I got to bring my thoughts in subjection. I got to keep it under obedience. Amen? That's being real. I don't want to let myself drift and then find out that I'm a turkey. And y'all know what they just call men turkeys, who are always looking like. I want to be respectful in the character of my office as a pastor, as a man of God. I don't want anybody feeling creepy. And when he holds your hand too long or the wrong way. I try to be conscious of those things. And I check with my wife. I'm like, did that look right? Does that sound right? Why? Because I want to make certain that when I go away, they have a godly impression of me. Does that make sense? How important is that to you as a man or woman? Vitally important to me. I don't know, let people just say, no, it's important. I want my light to shine. There's a lot of things you have to be careful. So when I say mother, I look the other way, I don't mean I turn my head and go, I don't see you. I just use my rules. From the chin up, from the shoulder back up, when I'm walking behind. I have to. So my mind be saying, oh, you can look down. It's okay. Because once I look down, I'm going to Keep looking.
That's why.
Okay?
That's why I see. I ain't see it perfectly look now. But if somebody come on the wall, you can look at it. But when you let's see, if she got past me and I look back and I stare her down. That means I lust after her. Because I see something I want. So that means
But see, what I want you to understand, and every man and woman understand, we gotta stop, is that the part that you're not dealing with is God so designed the human mind so strategic. You don't have to turn around and take another look. Your brain takes a picture of the thing long before you're conscious that you even saw the thing. How do you know that? Because you'll be dreaming and you'll get the full picture in your dream. From your mind. That is why I'm telling you, you have to train yourself to only see the parts of things that's not going to bring you into enticement. That make sense? That's what you have to understand. Like if I see somebody's wallet or somebody's purse or somebody's money that don't belong to me, I don't sit there and go, ooh, hey, forget it, mind, keep going. I train myself. Wow. They be like, oh, they don't mind. What is that? Stealing. But nobody was there. But I stole it. So when I do that with money that's lying there, when it comes to the church's money or other people's money that I'm responsible for, I handle it the same way. It don't belong to me. So where you don't need to put your hand, you don't put your hand. So I try to live a discipline like that. I have to. Because if I don't live discipline, I don't know about everybody else. If I'm slack in one area, I'm going to get slack in the other area. Amen? That's what I have to do. All or none. If I don't, I'm done for it. Amen? Okay. So God bless you if you can look and keep it going. I ain't getting in trouble. Okay. Amen. All right, can I quit? Any questions on the conference line? Any comments on the conference line? All right, let's go. Let's stand. We thank God for all of you doing tonight. Lord God, in the name of Jesus Christ, we thank you for your grace. We thank you for your mercy, Lord. You are wonderful. And we thank you for finding so much knowledge and peace in your word. We ask that as we leave this house tonight, that you dwell with us and you comfort our hearts and our lives. And God, that we prepare like good soil that the word may fall on it and bring forth seeds of righteousness. Lord, let not the enemy come and choke the word out of us as it falls and foams and thistles and stony places. But God, let us, God, desire to be the vessels that you so desire and need in this last day. Bless God, as those who hear us through the conference line or via live stream, let something that's said and done bring them closer to you, that their strength and their faith may grow in a desire for you. Bless Father's only can. We lift up hands without wrath, without doubt. In the grace of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, be with us henceforth and forevermore. Let us all say, amen.
Yeah.
Hey,